I talk a lot on this channel about cash flow forecasting and how important it is to the overall health of your business. And so I don't want to just tell you to do it without showing you how to do it. So I thought it was really important that I make a video and show you how to do a cash flow forecast. But I've done videos in the past in the old Clara CFO channel about how to build a monthly cash flow forecast, but I thought I would do this video to show you how to do a weekly one. Really, it's not that different, but I also wanted to make a weekly template available to you. So if you go to claracfo.com/cashflow, you're going to find the template that I'm going to show you today. We're going to walk through it in just a second. It is completely free to you, and you don't even have to sign up for my email if you don't want to, but I'd highly recommend it because we like to provide weekly resources to you on our Clara CFO newsletter. There's going to be a cash flow monthly tab, and then we're going to create a weekly forecast in this video here. Okay, so if that sounds interesting and you want to see that, make sure that you stay tuned. And then if you want to go ahead and grab your template, you can go to claracfo.com/cashflow to get the 2026 template. Now, this template has been downloaded over 10,000 times from our website, so I think it's helpful. So let's go ahead and hop into the cash flow forecast. Okay, so this is our cash flow template. Just to give you a brief, we'll walk through this real quick. There's a couple notes for use here in the first tab, and then this is a video instructions on how to do a monthly cash flow forecast. And here is the monthly template that has been updated for 2026. And then I have created this cash flow weekly. Okay, so what this is this is a 13-month cash flow. So if you look here, the first period, this would be a Sunday, and that's just how I've chosen to set this up, Sunday through Sunday. If you want to set yours up Saturday through Saturday, that's totally fine. The way that this is set up as well, so let's say that you are starting today, this is being recorded on January 11th, 2026. If you want to change the date, it will add the dates appropriately. So if you want to change the date, you can do that here, this first cell. But we're going to go back to the first, basically the Sunday right before the end of the year. This is a 13-week cash flow forecast. And then as the weeks continue to roll, you just continue to add dates from there. So I've made it really easy where you can just drag and continue the dates out further, but you can also just type them in. It's totally up to you. If you are an Excel person, you know those little tricks, but if not, you can just type it in. Okay, so the way that my cash flow forecast is structured is gonna be similar to other ones. There's nothing like super groundbreaking about my template versus maybe what you can find on the internet, but this is something that I've actually used with clients before, and lots of small business owners are using this template now as well. So the way that I've structured this is that we have the beginning cash is up here at the top. So I'm just going to start typing in some numbers. Okay, let's say our beginning cash is $40,000. Okay, and then you would put in your expected cash income. Okay, so this is weekly, remember, not monthly. So let's say that maybe you're a professional services business and you don't receive the majority of your cash till the last week of the month, because maybe you bill at the beginning of the month, but it takes people a couple weeks to pay. And maybe you are earning somewhere around, let's do $50,000 in the month. Okay, maybe you get some early birds who are paying you a little bit early. So maybe you get $5,000 of that early and the rest of it is coming in towards the end of the month. Okay, now you might have other revenue streams too. So maybe like this first one, I like to change these names too. So maybe this is like your consulting income. And then maybe you have some product sales that come in, but they're sort of ad hoc. Like you know, maybe you average somewhere around $200 a week in product sales. Okay. And then maybe you have a speaking engagement and you know that you're actually going to get paid for that on February 15th of $5,000. Okay. And then I'm just going to kind of do this for the first month, say, and then, so we're just kind of thinking, when you're doing cash flow forecast, you want to use your prior financials as an indicator of what's going to happen in the future. So if I was trying to predict January, I'd be looking at my December financials and saying, what are the expenses that I'm probably going to have again, and when are they going to actually hit? So one of the big things is going to be your payroll. So you should know when your payroll is going to post and when they're going to take the money out of your bank account. So you can go to your payroll provider and have a really clear indication of exactly when that is. For the purposes of this, I want to say our payroll goes out on the 15th and the 30th of the month. So that would be in this week of January 11th. Let's go ahead and say that the payroll is $18,000, and then 2 weeks later, it's $18,000, maybe just every 2 weeks. So I'm going to go ahead and just put that in here. Okay, and then I'm also just going to, since I kind of have a sense of what my monthly income cycles are going to look like, I'm going to go ahead and put the rest of that in there as well. Okay, and maybe payroll taxes are about 10% of payroll. I'm going to go ahead and put that in here. I'm just copying and pasting, make it easy for me. And then I should know when my insurance is going to hit. And you can change all of this over here on the side, customize it to what makes most sense for you. But let's say that insurance is paid closer to the first week of the month. And if it is, let's say it is $300 and it gets paid on the first of the month. Rent is also due on the first of the month, and your rent is $3,500. Putting those in there. And then you have utility bills throughout the month, and maybe they hit actually on different, maybe you have different utilities. So let's put some hypotheticals in here. On maybe the 15th and the 20th of the month. And so you can start to get a sense of like how you would fill this out. So you go back, I'm making things up as we go, so it's a little bit easier for me right now, but I would just go back and look at my prior month financials to get a sense of when does the utility bill hit? When does the rent need to be paid? When does the insurance need to be paid? And other things like that. So one thing that we might have on here is something like a credit card payment. So we have income from, this is going to be stuff that you're going to find on your profit and loss statement. This is stuff you're going to be finding on your profit and loss statement. But we also have other cash out, which is going to be more of like your balance sheet transactions. And then other cash in. So things like a credit card payment, maybe you are trying to pay down your credit card and you're trying to be a little bit more aggressive about it. And if that's the case, you might want to time that based on when your cash is at a more of a higher balance. So if your cash, because we don't receive the majority of our cash until the end of the month, you might not want to make your extra credit card payments until later in the month as well. Because down here at the bottom, we can see the total change in cash. You can see that we're going into the negative because of payroll. And then we kind of get back into the positive change in cash and our cash balance goes back up. Okay, so this is where you can decide also, like, is there room to take an owner's draw? Or maybe the owner like says, hey, I have to have an owner's draw of $5,000 every month and I need it by the end of the month. And if that's the case, you can go ahead and put this in here. Okay. You can also put your tax savings. So very important if you are trying to properly work for, very important if you're trying to save for your taxes along the way and then pay your taxes at the end of, or when those estimated quarterly tax payment due dates are. We like to make sure that there's a consistent tax savings. So in this case, what I would do is I'd actually calculate what the forecasted income is, and then I would potentially calculate the tax savings. So for just a quick amount here, if we have total income in the month of January of $50,000, and then we have total expenses of $43,000, that doesn't leave us with a whole lot. Let's see. I'm going to do this here. Equals sum total income minus sum of our expenses equals, and then I'm going to take this times 25% as our tax savings. So I'm going to go ahead and put $1,700 into tax savings. And then that would show what the cash would be at the end of the period. Okay, so this weekly cash flow can be really helpful because it can show you when to make certain payments or when you need to maybe hold off on getting aggressive with your debt if maybe sales are not there, for example. Or if you're saying, hey, actually all of our operating expenses are just too high for the amount of income we have coming in because our cash is going down over time. And if that's the case, like this is actually not a great situation right now because we started with $40,000 at the beginning of the period. And at the end of this 13-week period, we are actually at a lower cash position by a pretty significant amount, almost half of what we had before. So in my estimation, I would say that our expenses are a little bit too high for the income that we have coming in. So I would say, what can we do to increase our income, or can we cut our expenses slightly? Or maybe the owner needs to take a little pause on their owner's draw because there's really not enough cash to have our cash increasing over time and them to be able to take those owner's draws with everything else we have going on. Okay. So this is just a really good example of what a cash flow forecast looks like and how you can use it to help you make better decisions in your business. There's this cash in section down here at the bottom as well, where maybe if you need to borrow from a line of credit or something, maybe once you get down to March, you realize okay, we'll just borrow from the line of credit. Now, I wouldn't make that choice as a CFO because I'd be looking at, hey, let's preserve cash in other ways. But I'm giving you an example. If you did borrow from a line of credit, it does increase your cash down here. And then, you're starting out with the next month at that higher cash balance. Okay, so all the numbers that you plug in here should all be the absolute value. So they should all be a positive number because the math is being done for you to either take it out or add it back in. And then you could probably, I'm going to take this line out for future. You can also go over here and type in a number. If you don't want your cash to go below a certain amount, the spreadsheet will highlight in red font anything that it goes below whatever threshold you set. So if you say, hey, we don't want our cash to go below 30,000 because that's an uncomfortable number for us, the spreadsheet will highlight those times. So it'd be okay, this is, kind of a dangerous amount, especially when you get into February, we're getting pretty low on cash. That's kind of helpful to just kind of flag potential cash flow issues. Okay, well, that is the weekly cash flow, and hopefully that is helpful to you. I can definitely see how it's really helpful to think about this week by week. Now, I would say once you build up your cash buffer and you are, maybe you have a couple months of operating cash in your bank account where you're not really having to be hyper vigilant on the timing of your expenses, where you can just say hey, we know we're going to bring in a certain amount in the month and we know we're going to spend a certain month. We don't really need to worry too much about the exact day that it gets taken out of the account because you do have that buffer in place. Then you can move more towards the monthly cash flow forecasting. So then you can use this spreadsheet where you're just hey, we're bringing in $50,000 in a month and we're spending, $38,000 or $28,000 on payroll, and you can do it more in that monthly method. Now, the weekly, again, is more when you need to be a little bit more careful. You don't need to make a payment in the wrong week because your cash is a little tighter, okay? So when cash is tighter, use weekly. When cash is abundant, you can move to monthly. All right, so download the cash flow forecasting worksheet if it is of interest to you. It is completely free, claracfo.com/cashflow. And if you want to sign up for our newsletter, you can do that there as well. All right, well, I hope this was helpful. If you have any other questions about cash flow and cash flow forecasting, please put them in the comments section below. All right, see you in the next video.